So, what if I told you that having 50 chickens in your backyard could be, well, more than just a way to get fresh eggs for breakfast? What if it could actually be a real money-making business? Today, we're going to break down the actual numbers and see if a backyard flock can really truly turn a profit.
Look, for most people, having chickens is just a kind of charming hobby, right? But could it be more than that? Let's challenge that whole idea. We're going to look at a flock of 50 chickens, not as pets, but as a legitimate business opportunity.
And really, it all comes down to a huge difference in mindset. Most people, they see a chicken and think, oh, great, a few eggs for us. But someone who's thinking like an entrepreneur, they look at that exact same chicken and see a steady, reliable income stream. So, is it possible? Could this simple setup really be a little backyard goldmine? All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty and see what the potential actually looks like. We'll start with the most basic number of all. And here it is, 50. That's the magic number for today. We're not talking about some massive industrial farm here. We're talking about a manageable flock that could honestly fit in a pretty standard backyard.
Okay, so a good, healthy, egg-laying chicken, she's basically a little production machine. You can pretty reliably expect to get around 20 eggs a month from each one. That number, that's the baseline for all the math we're about to do.
And this is where the power of scale kicks in. You take those 50 chickens, multiply by 20 eggs each, and you're looking at 1,000 eggs every single month. All of a sudden, we're not just talking about breakfast anymore, are we? This is a real product with some serious volume. All right, so we've got our product, 1,000 eggs. The big question now is, what are they actually worth? It's time to dive into let's call it the economics of it all and see how this translates into actual dollars and cents. And this is where things get really interesting. See, we're not talking about your standard run-of-the-mill grocery store eggs, farm fresh eggs. They get a premium price. People are absolutely willing to pay more for something that's high quality and local. We're usually talking somewhere in the $3 to $5 per dozen range. Okay, let's break it down. 1,000 eggs is about 83 dozen. So have a look at this. Even if you're selling at the low end, just $3 a dozen, you're still pulling in around $250 a month. But if you can get that premium $5 price, whoa, your revenue jumps to over $400. Let's just let that sink in for a second. We're talking about more than $400 a month from chickens. I mean, that's a car payment for some people. That could cover a huge chunk of your groceries. It's real extra income. And that top line number is what makes this whole idea so darn appealing. But of course, revenue is not the same as profit. Anyone who's ever run any kind of business knows you've got to factor in your costs. So let's get real for a minute and figure out what you'd actually be taking home. And yeah, I know exactly what you're thinking right now, because it's the most important question of all. This sounds great, but what's it going to cost me to keep all these chickens happy and laying? It's a totally fair question, and it's the absolute key to figuring out if this whole thing is really profitable. So your main expenses, the ones you'll have month after month, are what we call operating costs. And really, that's mostly just the feed your chickens eat every day, plus stuff like water and fresh bedding for the coop. These are kind of the non-negotiables for keeping your flock healthy and productive. So what's the damage? Well, for a flock of 50 chickens, a pretty solid estimate for your monthly costs is going to be right around $150. Now, the biggest chunk of that, the lion's share, is going to be feed. The rest covers things like bedding and other basic supplies. Of course, this can change depending on where you live, but it's a really solid number for us to work with. Okay, let's put it all together now. This chart makes it super clear. On one side, you've got your potential high-end revenue, that $415. And on the other, you've got your estimated costs of $150. That big gap in between the two, yep, that's your profit. So the bottom line is pretty simple. Even after you pay for everything, there's still a nice, healthy profit left over. And, this is where the really smart owners get creative. If you can find ways to lower those costs, maybe by letting them free range more or supplementing their feed, that profit margin just gets bigger and bigger. But listen, if you think this whole story ends with just selling eggs, you are missing out on the biggest secret of all. Let's look beyond the eggs for a minute, because this is how the really savvy farmers maximize their income. This right here, this is the piece of insider knowledge that separates a simple hobby from a real business. I mean, think about it. Relying on just one product is always risky. The real profit and the long-term stability comes from diversifying. So how do you do it? Well, for one, you can hatch and sell chicks. They're always in demand. Just selling 20 chicks a month could add another $100 to your pocket. Or you could go for an organic certification and push your egg prices even higher, maybe to $6 or $7 a dozen. And what about building direct relationships with your customers, or even local restaurants? That guarantees consistent sales and builds a loyal base. And that is the real key. You see, smart farmers don't just raise chickens, they build a system. It all works together. Breeding new chicks gives you more egg layers and a new product to sell. Your marketing brings in the cash, and then that profit gets plowed right back into the business to make the whole thing grow.
You know, the best part about all this is that you don't have to go out and buy 50 chickens tomorrow. There's a totally manageable way to do this. You can start small, maybe with just 10 chickens. You learn the ropes, you figure things out. Then you reinvest your profits to scale up to 20 and then to 50. You're basically proving the business model at every single step along the way.
So there you have it. We've broken down the numbers, the costs, the whole strategy, and the potential. It's pretty clear, right? A real, profitable business could literally be waiting for you in your own backyard. So the only question left is, are you ready to get started?